author himself, Christopher Angel Machado. His memoir is a deeply personal and inspiring story of survival, healing, and self-discovery. A story that reclaims a life once defined by loss and transforms it into one of strength and purpose.
Thank you for standing with me, for believing in me, and for reminding me that no matter how many times life tries to silence you, that your story still matters. Thank you all, and I love you.
We need some energy up in here tonight, yes! Yes! So, alright, I'm not happy because Mike's saying, so we just gonna take it on out of here. It's not like I'm not accustomed to big things in my hand. I say what I say. So, are y'all having a good time so far? Sorry, Christy, not having a good time. It's time to go. Are y'all having a good time so far? Are you excited to be here tonight? Yeah! There he goes. What was that? What was that? I told you I don't talk to myself. This is called a response now. Okay? So, a few housekeeping rules. By the end of the night, we want to keep things running smoothly, even though we're getting a little late, so thank you so much for your patience. By the end of the night, we will have a raffle drawing to be some winners tonight, and trust me, you will want to be a part of this. Everyone who posts the book and the link on your social media and tags Christopher, you will get a prize tonight. You will automatically be entered to win some prizes tonight. Does everyone follow him on social media? Instagram, Facebook, yes? So please be sure to post, tag him on his social media pages, and you will be entered to win a signed paperback copy, a signed hard copy of the book, as it definitely deserves a place on someone's shelf, right? Right? Right?
Much better. Now I know you're probably wondering, Chris, why do you always have to be so extra? And the question you should be asking yourself is, why are you not enough? Now you're probably also wondering, why are you wearing sunglasses at 7:22 at night? Because my future has never looked more bright than tonight. I want to thank you for being here. I am talking out of turn, but tonight's my night. I can do what I want. But I sincerely want to thank you for being here. You could be anywhere else tonight, and you chose to be here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I truly love each and every one of you. We're packed tonight. It's going to be a good night, and I'm going to pass it off to Terry. Thank you, Terry Dyer, my roommate and dear friend. Give it up for Terry Dyer.
I try to outfit cute, huh? Outfit cute.
Fire!
So Christopher is an educator, now officially a writer, and an advocate whose life and work celebrate resilience, identity, and reinvention. A proud native of New York. Yes. And now a South Florida local. He's dedicated his career to empowering young minds through the power of words. His memoir is a deeply personal and inspiring story of survival, healing, and self-discovery. A story that reclaims a life once defined by loss and transforms it into one of strength and purpose. Through his writing, Christopher invites readers to reflect on their own capacity to rise, to rebuild, and to rewrite the stories that shape them. And when he's not in the classroom or behind the page, you can find him spending time with friends. Many of you in the room here tonight, yes? Cooking comfort food with flair. I can attest to that because sometimes I'm like rugged out the kitchen. Or walking his beloved dog Milo. Now I have had the pleasure of meeting Christopher for about a year, or over a year now. We've been friends and roommates. And since then, I have absolutely loved to watch his transformation, him settling into his own identity, and taking part of his own power. That's a powerful place to be in life, when we finally sit in who we are.
Machado, when he was being appointed as the assistant principal at Pompano Beach Middle School, I, at the time, as Terry said, was the intern principal, just awaiting a job. And so if you've ever been in a position where you're not sure when it's going to happen, you're jumping through hoops that you don't even know exist, you're not confident in what you're doing, in comes Christopher. Christopher comes in as the assistant principal coming out of a classroom, right? So I'm not saying that I'm much older than him, so don't forget about that. In comes Christopher, who begins to take a liking to the intern principal, Lisa Livingston. And when I say take a liking, I mean we are attached at the hip. Whenever you saw me, you saw Christopher. So Christopher is coming into, Machado is coming into a Title I school, coming from, where are you coming from again? You're coming from Monarch, thank you, Monarch. He's coming from Monarch at the time, and he's coming into this Title I school on the east side, right? So he comes into Pompano Beach Middle School. He's coming from high school, and he's coming into a middle school. But he's not afraid. He comes in, and he is ready to do his big one, as we say. He begins to become the 8th grade assistant principal. Never in a middle school would we have ever thought that a person who had not had any middle school experience be able to take on this Title I school that is trying to transform under an intern principal the way Machado did. He came in with class and authority. First, he pimped out, for lack of another word, his office, right? Definitely in Machado style. And then he walks the campus chest first. Chest first, letting everyone know that he's here. But what happens is that he's not quite familiar with some of the Exit 36. And if you know anything about Pompano, and you know anything about Exit 36, it is unique. And so one of the things, you think your challenge is the children, or are the children, but it's the adults. But not for Machado. Machado swoons every adult that he comes into contact with. Everybody immediately falls in love with him. From the head facility person who is hugging and kissing and pulling and touching and hugging and touching and pulling and touching on him, to a principal who is preparing to retire. So you have a whole extreme of emotions coming in. Then, as I was mentioning, you have families who, again, I prefaced the conversation with, this is a Title I school off of Exit 36 in Pompano, where Machado doesn't look the same. He doesn't look like everybody, he doesn't act like everyone. But he has the heart of a lion, and he comes in loving on the students and the parents. So we have this one incident where a parent comes in and she has a major problem with the discipline of how we do things at Pompano. So Christopher says, all right, Miss Livingston, I'm gonna need you to come in with me. I said, no problem, we got this, you have this. I thought that he needed me, but he didn't. He didn't need me because he already understood the assignment, and he understood that he chose children first, and that he was doing what was in the best interest of children. Although sometimes parents don't quite understand it, Machado loved students. He had the seniors in middle school of the class, and he needed them to act right. Another point that I do want to bring out is that as I speak about his legacy, he's obviously no longer there, but his legacy stands in me. So I was at a tumultuous time where the district was upside down. We had a new superintendent, and they were reappointing different personnel to different positions. Now I've done the work, and I've done the work with Machado because it is now the L&M show. We are running Pompano Middle School like none other. When I move, Chris moves just like that. And we are holding it down. We have decreased suspensions, we have improved school uniforms, we've increased the academic success of students, all together. So in comes the opportunity now for a principal to be named, but it wasn't me. Now that was hard. That was tough. And it was only not me because of some political things that happened at the time. It was postponed, but not denied. But who holds Lisa Livingston together? Christopher Machado. Christopher Machado is sitting at the retirement party of the previous principal, and I get a notice from the regional, at that time he was the director, he ultimately became the regional superintendent. I get a notice that, hey, we're gonna have to delay this promotion. Some other things are happening. Machado is sitting next to me when I'm getting this announcement at a big event. And no, that's not right. No, I say, Machado, pipe down, not now. In Christopher's style, he wants to come and protect and fight for me, when I couldn't fight for myself. Machado came in and he said, that's okay, we're still gonna run it like it's ours. Came in, he helped me to hold my head up high, he helped me to wait my turn, and ultimately it came. Unfortunately, we did not get to lead in the capacity that I thought we would. He was then moved to Lions Creek, but we never stopped communicating with each other. He never stopped sewing into me. I know this should be more about Machado, but I needed to make sure that he understood that he did more for me than I did for him. That's the type of man that he is. Your legacy continues to reside in Pompano Beach Middle School. We are still not using a door that you posted a sign on, do not enter, in Machado style. We are still doing that, and it is still in my spirit, the L&M show. I love you.
Friends, Camille Henry.
Well, I've known Chris since, like we said, high school, freshman year. We were both in student government. We did that whole situation, so every Saturday we were pretty much at school. At first, I thought maybe he had a crush on one of us girls. And then, obviously, later on in life, I found out that was not true, which leads me to my next story. My most unforgettable moment of Chris was, we were in college, it was our freshman year, and he was in Orlando, I was in Jacksonville, and he calls me and he says, I'm coming to Jacksonville. And anyone who's my friend or anyone who's ever met me knows my house is pretty much open. Like, if you're an acquaintance, you are welcome to just come by. And so Chris said, I'm coming by, I'm staying the night. And I said, that's fine. And he gets here, we sit down, and before we order dinner, he's like, I have something to tell you. And I said, okay, I already knew what he wanted to tell me, but go ahead. What do you have to say? And he's like, I'm gay. And I was like, okay, so we're ordering Chinese food, or are we getting pizza? Like, I'm really hungry, so what's the next meal? And he's like, I'm like, I've known for a long time, and I still love you. I'll always love you, and I'll always be by your side. So, fast forward to now, Chris has been by my side for many hard times, through many heartbreaks, and he's one of the best friends I could ever ask for. He mentions me in the book, and it's the most accurate description that anyone could ever describe me as, which makes me feel so great. And the way that he loves my son and loves me, I just can't thank him enough for. Every day during my cancer treatment, almost every day, he was checking in with my mom or checking in with me to see if I was okay. And it's just, he's been a rock in my hard time. One of the best quotes from his book that really describes him and his journey with me and helping me is, healing also means taking a look at the role that you played in your own suffering. It's on page 230. And it's one of his favorite quotes from the book as well. And it explains our friendship. He has held me accountable for a lot of things. If I've done something wrong, Chris is one of the first people to let me know, like, hey girl, you're wrong, you're being a bitch. Like, that was all you. That was not that. He's always there, and you know, I cannot thank you enough for the person that you are, the person that you're becoming, and I love you endlessly. You know that you're basically my husband, so I'm sorry, you know, Kevin, but yeah, he's not really, but yeah, I love you, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad that I could be here tonight. Thank you.
Give it up for Camille Henry, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today to celebrate such a significant achievement for Chris. I can't think of too many people that at 36 years old have written their life story. And much less from a standpoint of having turned your life around after life threw some huge roadblocks, obstacles that made you question your direction and purpose. I wish I could have saved Chris some of the doubt in his climb, because I've always known wholeheartedly he will reach anything he sets his mind to, no matter the setback. You see, from as far back as I can recall, and I was there the day he was born, Chris always set goals, worked at them with persistence and determination, and made them happen. Well, that is except for baseball, of course. That boy hit every time a ball was pitched to him. And our poor brother Bobby, who's over here, quickly gave up his aspirations to make Chris the next Sammy Sosa. Wasn't happening.
Nope.
See, but that's the point. That baseball goal was never his. When Chris is passionate about something, when he is driven towards a purpose, there is nothing that will hold him back. I watched him become 8th grade valedictorian, senior class president in high school, the head of speech and debate. Actually, he was the coach of speech and debate, the director of TV production at Monarch, a leader in student government. He was involved in PTA. He was a leader with the Latinos in Action group. The list goes on and on, honestly. So when he mentioned he was planning to write a book, I knew it would get done well, and that it would be one heck of a read. It was so good, I read it in one night. Without spoiling it for those that haven't read it yet, I do want to share the moment in Still I Stand as his sister that touched me the most. I literally sat in my bed as I read that chapter and cried. Because for the first time, I was reading his perspective. As a little boy excited about his biological dad visiting, I was able to realize how confusing it must have been for him back then. I was 22 when his mom passed, but Chris was only 5. So we hid truths from him because he was just too little to understand. But those truths explain why our family was so uncomfortable when his dad visited, or why the looks in our eyes, or why the hesitations were there. The realization of how differently we looked at that situation made me sad, because that little boy felt rejected, when all we were trying to do was protect him and kind of defend his mom. Chris and I spoke after I read the book. We had a lot of conversation, cleared some things up, but we talked about that time in our lives. Now, Chris, if I could speak directly to your parents, Angel and Josie, tonight, I'd tell them how proud we are of all your accomplishments. I'd tell your mom that you inherited her spunk, her spontaneity, her fun energy, her sense of humor, her sense of adventure, her love of music and dancing. That just like she was, you are the life of the party, always. That like her, you're also very direct and fearless. I tell your dad that you're a replica of his professionalism, all his mannerisms, his sense of style, that you're always dressed to the nines as he was. I tell them both that there's no question you turned out to be so amazing, given the combination of their great traits and those of our awesome family who raised you. A family who shows up, who loves deeply, who works hard, who shows resilience when obstacles arise, who support each other no matter what. A family who's all about unity. When you add all those traits to a man who's already goal-driven and determined and very intelligent, it's no surprise you still stand despite all that you have been through. In this crazy world full of challenges and obstacles, you're not just surviving and still standing, you are thriving. I am excited for everyone to read your book and can't wait to be part of all that awaits you. I love you very much. I'm very proud of you. Congrats, Chris.
Put your hands together for Madeline and Marie, please. All right, as we gear up for our final speaker of the night, I just want to share something that Madeline reminded me of. Christopher and I met on Facebook in August of 2024, and then I moved in and became roommates with him and Milo, with my little girl Zola, in September of 2024. One of the things that I certainly, as someone who's never lived with anybody here in South Florida, I've been here 6.5 years, one of the things I never realized is just how two people can come together and you never know why. You never know why somebody enters your life. And our lives really do parallel each other in so many different ways. Dealing with so much from our family upbringing, dealing with standing in LGBTQ advocacy work, standing in solidarity for those impacted by the HIV virus. There's so many things that he and I share in this life, and we were brought together essentially just because of roommate situation. So I thank him and Milo for really embracing both myself and my little girl Zola as well. So put your hands together please one more time for Christopher Child.
As I prepared for tonight, one word came to mind: impact. People often come in our lives for seasons, jobs come and go. We cherish the good and bad experiences, and we live in the moment as we don't know the next chance we will get. But it all comes back to impact. What impact did the person who was there for a season have on your life? What impact did the job that you worked so hard for and gave your all for have on you? What impact did the opportunities and the doors that open and close have on you? The person we are here for tonight, and who you may know as Chris or Christopher, I know as Mr. Machado. Someone who made an impact in my life over 10 years ago. Who would have known that being my 10th grade English teacher, who became my mentor and listening ear in 11th and 12th grade, who has now become my close friend, is who I'd be up here speaking about tonight. So let's begin. We're accustomed to a society where we show up, we work, go to a meeting, interact with peers, go home, repeat. We often do this for years until another door opens. Mr. Machado, or someone I can now call Chris, was never the person to subject himself to what society portrayed a job was and how it should be done. He showed up each and every day for the child who didn't have a voice, a child who was battling their identity, a child whose home didn't have peace, a child who couldn't focus due to hunger, and a child who just needed someone to see them more than a grade and to be seen in a way that others didn't. With knowing Machado for over 10 years, you would think that memories begin to fade, but you still know the feeling that someone gave you. Except for with Chris, I have vivid memories and the feelings that he gave me. I remember the times where I got sucked into high school drama and he was the one who checked on my mental health. Sorry guys. I remember when my parents were getting a divorce, and not only was my mental health checked on, but he made sure I never felt alone, and occasionally had Chinese takeout. He made sure that I knew someone was there who cared not just about my test scores. As a 12th grade student preparing to go to college, I had forgotten about the one thing that was needed for me to get there: college applications. I think you can all guess where this is going. Not only did he help me with one application, but he helped me with 4. Not only did he roll his eyes at me with fixing my grammar, but he continued to pour into me and tell me I could do this. And we all know teachers don't stay long after the hours they're contracted for, but he did. Not 1 hour, but 3 hours. Not 1 day, but a whole week. Again, impact. The impact that someone has on your life has a lasting impression that shapes your life and who you choose to be in this world. You choose to be the light. You choose to give the one a voice. You choose to show up for someone else because someone did it for you. And the person who showed for me, time and time again, was Chris. As Chris said in his book, I met teachers who planted seeds in me that wouldn't bloom for years, but their impact took root all the same. When someone has an impact in your life the way Chris did in mine, you start to see those seeds they planted take root and show up in the work you do. I am now 27 years old with a bachelor and master's in social work and soon to be a licensed clinical social worker. Where in my current role, I am working as a therapist to kids in foster care. Although I always knew I wanted to work in some capacity where advocacy and human interaction intertwine, I'd like to think having someone set the example of what advocacy looks like impacted that. I watched Machado stand out from other professionals, and from a student perspective, he stood out in a way others didn't, which was his intention of every child being seen. One of the biggest lessons I learned from my encounters with him is show up and show out. Not in a way of being messy, but when I say show up and show out, I mean show up for others the way most don't. Let your voice be the loudest and carry a message that most won't dare to speak, and hold on to the values you have with being unapologetically you. Again, impact. I was never ashamed in high school of being born to and raised by 2 gay mothers, which I'll pause and say they are here tonight. But I wasn't open to teachers about it either. Again, not everyone is open-minded and not everyone can understand. I'll never forget when staying late in class, Machado kept referring to my mom and dad. And I looked at him and said, I actually have 2 moms and they're gay. And for once, somebody meeting Machado looked at me and smiled and said, girl, I love it. Trust me, I understand I'm gay and I can't wait till mamas who raised you. Again, impact. He didn't have to say much, but what he said had impact simply because he understood and heard me. I could go on and on of the fondest memories I have of him. I mean, I even have a fond memory of never failing not one assignment in his class or a test. But what we're really here tonight about is not about the memories I have, but the man who has had an impact in so many lives, despite being knocked down, despite the losses that could have kept him down, despite the love and heartbreak, despite the past that turned into closed doors, and still he stands. He stands for the ones who think they will not make it through. He stands for the one who may have lost their battles way too early. He stands for the ones who have made messy mistakes and think they'll never come back for them. He stands for all of the minorities who others make them believe they don't have space in this world. But what was that word again? Impact. He's had an impact in so many lives and continues to show up and show out for others in ways many won't. Again, he's continuing to make an impact. You don't often get the chance to tell someone the impact they made in your life, let alone being their opening speaker. So before I introduce the man that we're here for today, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you, Machado, for being the teacher I thought I never would have. Thank you for being there for me in ways others couldn't. Thank you for making those who are a minority feel like they are the majority and never what society says that they are. Thank you for showing what advocacy, determination, and staying true to yourself looks like. Thank you for never dulling who you are, because it's your light and realness that created so many students to feel that they belong. Thank you for the 10th grade English teacher, mentor, and now friend who you have been to me for over the last 10 years, despite my horrible communication skills. Thank you for standing and being the light in so many lives. And help me congratulate, celebrate, and welcome the one and only Christopher Angel Machado.
Before I dive into my speech and remind you why Kleenex exists in the first place, I want to start off in the spirit of honesty, which is the cornerstone of my memoir. A little over a month ago when I announced this book launch, I was going through it. Personally, financially, at work, and juggling more family health crises than my spirit knew how to hold. It felt like the universe looked at my memoir about overcoming obstacles and said, "Oh, you wrote a book about resilience. That's cute. Let's test that one more time." Through the tears, the stress, and the self-doubt, I picked up my own book, but this time not as the author, as the reader who needed the reminder. And the page I turned to read this line: "The man I am today isn't a product of pain. He is the proof of perseverance, the result of prayer, the reward of choosing myself again and again, even when the world told me that I was not worth the risk." I closed the book and decided to keep writing anyway. And this moment right here became my next chapter. A chapter that looks like a room full of people who believe in me and my story. A career built on hard work and never giving up. Friends who never let me forget my worth. A family who picked me up every time life humbled me to the floor. Students who remind me daily why I became an educator in the first place. And I'm so glad you're here tonight. And maybe, just maybe, like Rihanna once said, it's about finding love in a hopeless place. Only in my version, that hopeless place happens to be a bar in Wilton Manors on Halloween night, where I stumbled into a handsome 6'2" Cuban with a personality big enough to meet his own zip code. But more than anything, tonight is proof that even when life feels like it's testing every ounce of your strength, the story isn't over. Sometimes you just need to be brave enough to turn the page. And when I did, I found myself. My name is Christopher Angel Machado. I am the proud Dominican and Puerto Rican son of an immigrant family. I am the child of Maria Jose Frias and Angel Machado, two people whose love and pain shaped every part of the man standing here tonight. I am the product of both private and public education. I hold a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and give me a little bit more time, and I will be Dr. Christopher Angel Machado. I am a brother. I am a cousin. I am a best friend. I am a hopeless romantic who believes that love can find you anywhere and when you least expect it. I am a mentor. I am an educator. I am a leader. I am an advocate. And today, I get to add one more title to that list. Today, I stand here as a proud published author. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is a special occasion, a momentous evening. You're just not here guests at a celebration. You're part of a moment, a movement that began long before this book was written. It started with a story, my story, a journey that took years of breaking, healing, forgiving, and finally writing. And tonight, that journey has found its way into these pages and into this room. I want to be sure I choose my words carefully because I know all too well the power of words. They have the ability to wound and to heal, to silence and to set free, to destroy a life, or to rewrite one. And for me, that's what this book became. Not just a collection of memories, but a reclamation. A declaration that no matter what life takes from you, you can still find meaning in the mess, beauty in the brokenness, and purpose in the pain. So tonight isn't just about celebrating a book. It's about honoring every single person who helped turn survival into story and story into strength. I want to take this time to give a special shout out to some of you here tonight, the people who've helped me get to this moment. First, my family. Because before there was ever a book, before there was even a teacher, an author, or a version of me that believed he could stand, there was a boy who just needed love, and a family that refused to let him go without it, especially my sister Madeline. Thank you for that beautiful speech. I love you. To my mother, Julia, the woman who raised me, who became both my anchor and my example, you have loved me with patience that I didn't always deserve, and a strength I could only hope to inherit. You taught me that family isn't just who you're born into, but who shows up over and over again. And tonight, I hope you know that I'm standing here because you never stopped believing that I could. I know I've given you more than your fair share of sleepless nights, but tonight, I hope you rest easy, knowing you raised a man that you can be proud of. A mi madre Julia, la mujer que me crió, que se convirtió en mi ancla, en mi ejemplo. Me has amado con una paciencia que no siempre merecí y con una fortaleza que solo puedo aspirar a heredar. Me enseñaste que la familia no solo es con quien naces, sino con quien aparece una y otra vez. Y esta noche espero que sepas que estoy aquí de pie porque tú nunca dejaste de creer que yo podía lograrlo. Sé que te ha dado más de una noche sin dormir, pero esta noche espero que descanses tranquila sabiendo que criaste un hombre de que puede estar orgullosa. Gracias, madre. Now on to my friends. Because my family likes to joke that I have a lot of them. Well, here they are. My chosen family, starting with my best friend, Camille. 22 years of friendship, that's more than half my life, and somehow you still haven't gotten tired of me. Which says a lot about your patience and your sense of humor. You've been through every version of me, the uncertain teenager, the heartbroken 20-something-year-old, the overworked adult, just trying to hold it together. You were one of the first people I ever came out to, as you said in your speech. And in that moment, you gave me something I didn't know I needed. Permission to be myself. You are the definition of loyalty, the keeper of my secrets, and proof that chosen family can be just as sacred as blood. Thank you for 22 years of friendship, forgiveness, and fierce love. You've seen me through every chapter, and I'm so grateful you're here to witness this one. Thank you, and I love you. Can one of the servers get Kim for me for a second? Thank you. Lisa Livingston. Or as many of you will come to know her as the incomparable Latrice Langston. You lead with power, grace, and that signature Olivia Pope energy that somehow commands the room and comforts it at the same time. You have this way of seeing people, of pulling greatness out of them, even when they're too tired or too unsure to see it themselves. You demand excellence, yes, but you also remind us that excellence means nothing if it costs us our authenticity. You've taught me that leadership isn't about titles. Isn't about titles, corner offices, or who sits at the head of the table. It's about building the table, making room for others, and making sure every voice gets heard. You didn't just mentor me. You molded me. You helped me become the kind of leader who leads with compassion, even in a world that confuses kindness for weakness. Oh, Kim, I'm so glad you walked in the room.
Hi, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kimberly, the owner of Milk Money.
You look good up there.
And you look great in that apron, I gotta say. Kim, my dear friend, thank you for opening your doors, your heart, and your kitchen. You've done more than host this night. You've created a space where stories, laughter, and carbs can coexist peacefully. You've built a place that reminds us all that connection is the best thing on any menu. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations. He's amazing. Thank you, guys. Glad to have everybody. Thank you.
Miss WB, is she in the room? Oh, I see you. She always looks damn good. I told her the other day, is there a color that doesn't look good on you? My current supervisor, Miss WB. You were there on that Friday afternoon during a conversation when the trajectory of my life shifted for the better. The day you hired me. You didn't witness the moment that shattered me, the one that I rarely talk about. When I was at one of my lowest points in my life, feeling like the rug had been pulled out from under me, and like I was drifting without direction. But you did help me climb out of it. You helped me steady myself when everything around me felt unstable. You saw me, not the fear, not the uncertainty, but the person underneath it all. And in that moment, with one conversation, one opportunity, you helped resuscitate my career and reminded me of the purpose that I thought I had lost. And you didn't stop there. When an assistant principal interview came up, you believed in me again. Not only that I could teach under your supervision, but that I could lead beside you. I didn't get the job, and that's okay. But what you gave me was far more valuable. You restored my hope. You showed me that there are still leaders who believe in second chances, in potential, and in people. I'm standing here tonight because you supported me at a time where I felt like I had nothing left to give. Thank you, Miss WB, for continuing to believe in me. And finally, to my kids, Hunter, Jack, Edison, Isabella, Michelle, Michael, Zoe, Carlos, Caroline, Yamalis, Gustavo, and to the ones who couldn't be here tonight, past and present. While I'm not going to name everyone here, it's important for me to name my kids, because names carry weight. Each one represents a story, a spark, a reminder of why I do what I do. You are the heartbeat of everything I've ever built, both inside and outside the classroom. You've taught me more about resilience, humor, and humanity than any professional development ever could. You've shown me what it looks like to rise after failure, to laugh through chaos, and to find light in places most adults have forgotten where to look. Every time one of you discovers your voice, it reminds me exactly of why I found mine. You are the reason I keep showing up, the reason I keep believing, and the reason that I keep standing. You are the legacy, not the lesson plan. Because when I look at you, like I do tonight, which is exactly why I put you there, I see living proof that our stories, no matter how imperfect or unfinished, can still become something extraordinary. You remind me every day that we are not defined by where we start, but the courage it takes to keep rewriting our ending. To all of you, family, friends, and mentors, this night, this book, I'm an author, y'all. This book is yours as it is mine. Thank you for standing with me, beside me, and sometimes in front of me when I needed it most. And to those who couldn't be here tonight, I feel you too. Your love, your support, your messages, your prayers, they've carried me just as much as the people in this room. This moment is being recorded not just for memory's sake, but so that the ones who couldn't be here can still feel what we've built together. Because this isn't just a celebration, it's ours. Every hand that helped me rise, every heart that refused to let me fall, you're part of this story too. All right, now that I've emotionally blackmailed all of you with love, let's get to the reason why we're all here tonight. I want to tell you about a dream, one that didn't make it into the pages of this book. For years, I imagined doing something special to commemorate the 30th anniversary of my mother's passing. A tribute, a trip, because God knows I love to travel. A moment big enough for the love that I still carry for her. Even this afternoon, what I never expected was this. A book not just born from her, but shaped by the echoes of her absence and the strength she somehow left behind. This memoir started as a way to make sense of my grief, but somewhere along the way, it became a place where others could feel seen, understood, and less alone. And I want you to know that tonight didn't happen by accident. I didn't just pick on any date in the calendar and call it a celebration. I chose this weekend for a reason. Because tomorrow is my late mother's birthday. And I can think of no better way to honor her than by standing in a room full of people who believe in the power of a story and in the power of the man she gave birth to. A man determined to transform lives, starting with his own. This moment is intentional. It's a tribute, a full circle offering of love, faith, and gratitude. Not just for where I've been, but for the woman whose love still guides me here. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but I was raised by an army. People ready to fight for me even in rooms I wasn't standing in. People who shielded me when the world felt too sharp. Maybe that's the real celebration. Not just a moment, but a movement. Not just her life, but how it breathes through mine. And I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about my father. A man whose struggles with addiction shaped my world long before I had the words to understand any of it. His absence, his battles, and the shadows they cast forced me to grow up faster than I should have. But even in the pain, he taught me something invaluable. That a person's story doesn't end with their mistakes. and that brokenness has the power to teach compassion. His journey was not an easy one, but it made me the man who refuses to give up on people, because I know what it feels like to be shaped by someone who couldn't stay long enough to love you the way you deserved. So Mom and Dad, this is for you. And tonight, I want to dedicate this celebration to someone whose story touched me deeply, Brad Steele. The son of a beautiful soul I had the privilege of meeting last weekend. A young man gone far too soon. His life, his memory, and the love of his family still carries are reminders of how fragile and sacred our time here truly is. So tonight, as we honor the ones we've lost, we also hold space for Brad, for the light he brought into the world, and for the hearts that still ache for him. May this evening be a tribute not to some, but to his, and to every life that ended before its final chapter was written. And for anyone who's ever lost someone they wish they could still make proud, tonight we remember them by living fully, loving deeply, and telling the truth, even when our voices shake. And speaking of truth, I want to take you back where my story really begins. To the nights that shaped me, to the memories that held me together, and the moments that taught me what love looks like, even in its most complicated forms. So before we go any further, I want to share a piece of that beginning with you. May I? What I'm about to read to you is the first chapter of my book. It's titled Haagen-Dazs and Unsolved Mysteries. It's about my mother, about my father, and it's about the boy caught up in the middle of who had no idea that those moments, those quiet, messy, tender moments as a 4-year-old would someday become the opening pages of a story that would change his life. Haagen-Dazs and Unsolved Mysteries. My earliest childhood memories began with the one person who would single-handedly shape my entire life, my hopes, my dreams, and the very reason that this book exists in the first place. My mother, Maria Josie Frias. Every night before bed, we had a sacred ritual. My mother and I would curl up on the couch and watch Unsolved Mysteries, the hauntingly iconic documentary series hosted by Robert Stack. For those unfamiliar, it was an early 90s staple, a montage of real-life stories, chilling reenactments, and unsolved crimes, missing person cases, conspiracy theories, and the kind of paranormal tales that could keep a child awake long after bedtime. And yet, I never felt afraid. Not when she was by my side. We'd each enjoy a Haagen-Dazs vanilla milk chocolate ice cream bar, though share might be a better word. She always nibbed away at the chocolate shell and most of the vanilla, then handed me what was left, the soft, creamy center. That was my favorite part, and honestly, it kind of still is. And maybe she knew that. Maybe it was her way of giving me a little extra sweetness at the end of every day. That's where my memories with her end. I didn't know that last night, our final Unsolved Mysteries, our final shared ice cream bar would be the last. No warning, no slow fade, just gone. No more bedtime tuck-ins, no more silly songs while brushing my teeth, no warm arms waiting for me after school. No soft voice telling me that everything would be okay. She wouldn't be there to see me off to first grade. She wouldn't be there to clap for me at my high school graduation, or beam with pride as I crossed the stage for my bachelor's and later my master's degree. She couldn't because she couldn't. She was taken from me in the middle of the night, rushed to the hospital, and just like that, she never came home. Maria Josie Frias died on January 15th, 1995. She was 34 years old. I was 4. Before she passed, I got to visit her in the hospital. I remember climbing into the narrow bedside beside her, not quite understanding what was happening, but knowing that something just wasn't right. She gave me a plush teddy bear, dressed in a hospital gown, a small, hopeful gesture meant to soothe a scared little boy, a get well soon token. But she didn't get well. That bear is still with me. All these years later, I still reach for it when life feels heavy. There's a comfort in its warm scenes, a piece of her that still I can hold. I clutch for it when words fail, when grief resurfaces like a wave I thought I had already passed. This bear holds more than a stuffing. It holds the remnants of her love. My family says that they read books to me about how to explain death to a child. They say they had difficult conversations with me in the days that followed her passing. But memory shields me from them. Trauma has a way of tucking pain into corners we can't fully reach until we're ready. And I wasn't ready. What I do remember was the funeral. It was a cold, gray morning, the kind where even the sky seems to mourn. Rain drizzled from the heavens, soaking the earth as if it too understood the magnitude of what we'd lost. Everyone wore black, their faces somber, their energy cloaked in sorrow. I, still full of childhood joy, couldn't understand the weight hanging in the air. No one gave me a straight answer. I remember asking my cousins why everyone looked so sad. They deflected, distracted, and then they walked me into the funeral home. That's when I saw her, lying still, beautiful in her pink lipstick, too still, too quiet. A stray hair rested on her lip, and I remember feeling an urge to brush it away, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. Some small voice inside me knew, this is the moment that everything changes. I stood frozen, staring at the shell of the woman who once made me laugh with bedtime stories and kiss scraped knees like they were broken bones. In that moment, my innocence was buried alongside her. As I got older, the questions began to pile up, stacking like unopened letters in the back of my mind. Why did she die so young? Why wasn't I living with my father? Why did my family treat him like an unwelcome ghost? The answers they gave me were neat, clean, sanitized. They said she died of cancer. That before she passed, she had given custody of my brother and me to her sister Julia and her husband Antonio. And for a while, that was enough. Enough to quiet the noise. Enough to let me sleep. Until it wasn't. As I grew older, I noticed the tension, the way the air shifted when my father visited. He came only on birthdays and Christmas, always with a smile, but never with ease. The adults barely tolerated him. He got different plates, different silverware. They tried to be discreet, but I noticed. Children always do. Then one afternoon, I overheard my Aunt Julia talking with a friend. The topic of my mother's death came up. Her friend asked, almost too casually, "He still doesn't know, does he?" Something inside me snapped awake. From that moment on, I didn't stop asking questions until finally, something broke. And when they did, the truth spilled out, raw, ugly, and real. My father was a drug addict. He contracted HIV through intravenous drug use. He unknowingly passed it on to my mother. Her body, weakened from childbirth, couldn't fight it. She died from complications related to HIV/AIDS. I wasn't ready for that truth. I wasn't ready to learn that addiction had stolen her from me. That the man I looked up to, the one I'd waited for every holiday, every birthday, carried the very thing that ended her life. Suddenly everything made sense. The scorn in my relatives' eyes, the separate utensils, the resentment that never simmered below the surface, it boiled. To them, he was the villain in a story that ended in tragedy. But to me, he was still my dad. Broken, yes. Flawed, absolutely. But he was mine. And I refused to hate him. Because if the world saw him as unworthy of love, then I would love him twice as hard. Because I was all he had left. And despite his demons, he never stopped showing up. When he couldn't get there on his own, someone else made sure he did. What my dad lacked in stability, he sometimes made up for in the people who loved him. Chief among them was his brother, my Uncle Mike. One of the funniest people I've ever known, my Uncle Mike didn't just have my dad's back. He practically carried him through life when things got hard. When my dad was homeless, it was Uncle Mike who gave him a roof. When birthdays or holidays came around and my dad said he wanted to see me, it was Uncle Mike who made it happen. Not just because my dad didn't have a car. He didn't, but sometimes he didn't have the courage either. Uncle Mike brought both. I'm grateful my dad had someone like that in his corner, someone who showed up for him in ways that others couldn't or wouldn't. And long after my dad passed, Uncle Mike has continued to show up for me. That kind of loyalty, that kind of love doesn't go unnoticed. It lives in the quiet spaces between grief and gratitude. As a teenager, I used to pray that he would live long enough to see me graduate high school. I begged the universe for that one gift. And in May of 2007, that prayer was answered. My father sat in the audience as I crossed the stage as senior class president. He watched his son, rise. Less than a year later, the phone rang. This time it was Uncle Mike. He told me my father had been hospitalized with pneumonia, but this wasn't the first time. With his condition, it had become as routine as the common cold, but something in my uncle's voice made my stomach twist. He handed the phone to my father, and the moment I heard him, I knew. His voice was faint, like the echo of the person he used to be. We talked for a bit, filling spaces with small talk that mattered more than the words themselves. And before he hung up, he said, "I love you." Simple, final, like he knew. That night, he suffered a massive brain aneurysm. I was on the flight to New York the next day, heart pounding with every mile that crossed. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I walked into that hospital room. He was unrecognizable, bloated, motionless, silent, hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically, mocking the absence of life. The doctors were kind, but blunt. There was no brain activity, no coming back. It was time to let him go. When the time came, it was just me and him. No nurses, no doctors, no machines humming to buy us more time. Just a quiet room, fluorescent lights, casting shadows on sterile walls. And the unbearable truth settling into my chest like poured concrete. They had disconnected the machines one by one, and all that remained was him, my father, the man who gave me my name, my quiet comfort, and my fierce eyebrows. Yeah, that's definitely a Machado thing. The only parent I had left. I sat by his side, holding his hand like I could somehow anchor him to this world by sheer force of will. His skin was still warm, but it was the kind of warmth that doesn't last, the kind that fades by the second. I watched his chest rise and fall, uneven and fragile, like a wind-up toy winding down for good. I kept whispering, "It's okay. I'm here. I love you." But none of it felt okay, and none of it ever would. And then it happened. His breath staggered, paused, and then nothing. No final gasp, no dramatic last word, just silence. I didn't cry, not at first. I couldn't. I sat there frozen, staring at the man who used to be my dad, slowly becoming a shell. I kept my hand on his chest as if I could will his heart to keep beating, as if I could trade places. But death does not negotiate. It just takes. And in that moment, something broke in me, clean, sharp, irreparable. Because this wasn't just a man dying. This was my father, my last parent, my only tether to where I came from. I collapsed into the side of the hospital bed, sobbing like I hadn't since I was a child. My cries were not poetic or quiet, they were guttural, raw, the kind that comes from a place beyond language. I shook with the weight of it, with the loneliness, with knowing that there would be no more phone calls, no more visits on holidays or birthdays. Just absence, just me. And if you never watched someone you love take their last breath, never had to let go while still clinging for dear life, I pray that you never have to understand this pain. Because in that moment, I didn't just lose my father. It felt like the final page of a chapter had been torn out. No goodbye, no closure, just white space where his voice used to be. And the silence that he left behind was deafening. Angel Machado died on March 31st, 2008. He was 50 years old. I was 18. For a long time, I didn't tell anyone how they died. Not because I wasn't grieving, but because I was scared. Scared of judgment. Scared of pity. Scared of the stigma wrapped around 3 little letters. HIV. You see, in the 90s, HIV and AIDS wasn't just a diagnosis. It was a death sentence laced with shame. People whispered, people assumed, the disease didn't just kill, it erased dignity. There were times I worried people would assume that my mother had been a sex worker because simply she died of AIDS. So I stayed quiet. But silence, I've learned, doesn't protect you. It isolates you. It locks your grief in a box and slaps a label on it, too messy to unpack. But baby, I'm unpacking it now. Years later, I carried their memory in ink. Across my upper back, I have a red ribbon tattooed, bright and red, defiant, the internationally recognized symbol for HIV/AIDS awareness and support. It's centered between 2 large angel wings that stretch across my shoulders. On the left wing, in fine black script, is Angel, my father. On the right, Maria, my mother. Everything but the ribbon was done in black ink, a quiet nod to their passing. But the ribbon blazes in vivid red, because HIV/AIDS isn't just history. It still lives, it still takes, it still scars. I chose that spot intentionally, not for aesthetics, but for meaning. It was my way of saying they'd always have my back. That even in death, my parents, my guardian angels, would be right there, looking over my shoulder. Watching me move through this world with the strength they left behind. My parents were more than their illness, more than the stigma. They were real people, flawed, vibrant, loving, and complicated. And they deserve to be remembered in the fullness of their humanity. Speaking my truth isn't about reliving pain. It's about reclaiming power. It's about saying, yes, this happened to me, but no, it does not define me. It's about honoring their lives by refusing to let shame write their ending. It's about breaking the silence that stigma built brick by brick. I talk about my parents' death from HIV/AIDS because they mattered, because the truth matters. Because somewhere out there might be holding the same story in their heart, too scared to let it breathe. And maybe if they'll hear mine, they'll feel less alone. And maybe they'll speak theirs. This truth does not define me, but it shaped me. It taught me empathy, resilience, the value of honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, but especially when it's uncomfortable. So, I speak for them. For me. For every child who's had to piece together their story from whispers and shadows, I speak because silence already stole too much from me, and I refuse to let it steal anything else. Because the truth is, some stories just don't start with a once upon a time. They start with loss, with absence, with the echo of a door that never closed right, and the kind of love that felt borrowed, not promised. For years, I tried to rewrite my past in the safest way possible, smoothing out the edges, replacing pain with humor, skipping the parts that still made my chest tighten. But the past doesn't like to be edited. It lingers and it waits. And eventually it finds its way back home, even to the house that never really felt like one. I was so sure this morning I was gonna cry. Thank you for listening. Saying those words out loud always takes me back to the little boy who lived them, and to the man who finally found the courage to write them. Because the truth is, those memories weren't just scenes from a childhood. They were the foundation of everything that I've become, and everything that I had to unlearn. And that's the part of the story that most people never see. What comes after are the memories. What happens when the lights goes out, when the world goes quiet, and you're left alone with the parts of your past that you're still trying to understand? You see, when you grow up with the trauma that I did, it makes you question your worth before you even know who you are. Loneliness becomes your shadow. Hope feels like a luxury. And the idea that something beautiful can grow from your story, oh honey, that feels like fiction. But even broken beginnings can lead to powerful endings if you're lucky enough to be surrounded by people who see you before you see yourself. This book wouldn't exist without these people, without every single one of you in this room. Even the ones I just met last weekend on the cruise. You helped me keep writing, you helped me keep believing, you helped me keep standing tall. And together, we prove that no matter where you come from or what hand you're dealt, baby, when you're blessed with a full house, you play to win. Yeah. But tonight isn't just about winning. It's about witnessing how we show up for each other, the courage to keep going, the beauty of rebuilding when life tries to level you. This isn't a celebration of a book. It's a celebration of a becoming, of growth over bitterness, of rewriting a story that could have ended so many different ways but didn't. Because I kept turning the page. Because all of you reminded me that I still had chapters left to write. Yeah. Even in this room, still hiding their scars, still wondering if you're not enough. Girl, I see you. You're exactly what survival looks like when it finds its voice. Thank you for loving me through every messy draft, for being my red pen and my applause. And now tonight we begin the next chapter together. This moment is bigger than me. It's about daring to speak your truth out loud and realizing that the room doesn't go silent. It leans in. It's about turning pain into purpose and shame into strength. And the people that we were into people that we were always meant to become. I stand here today not as someone who's figured it all out, because I haven't, but as someone who finally stopped running. And in doing so, I found something better than perfection. I found peace. I found pride. I found power. And now I use it to speak for kids, who feel invisible, to fight for families who deserve dignity, to remind anyone who's ever been told they're too different that, honey, you are in fact divine. You don't need a perfect past to build a beautiful future. You just need truth, grit, and people who remind you that your story matters. So here's to the stories still unwritten, the voices still trembling, the hearts still healing. May this book be a mirror for some and a window for others, but a lighthouse for all. Because if I've ever learned anything, it's this. We're not just here to survive what tried to break us. We're here to rise, to rebuild, and to remind the world that still we stand. Now listen, before anyone starts thinking that I've got my life all figured out just because I wrote a book, let me clear that up right now. I am not the poster child for emotional stability. Yes, I've healed, I've gone to therapy, I've journaled, I've staged my apartment. Thank you for being part of my story tonight and a part of my life. For showing up, for listening, for feeling every word with me. Because this book isn't just my story, it's ours. It's a reflection of every person who ever thought their pain disqualified them from purpose. Every dreamer who's ever been told they're too late. Every survivor who's still learning how to live again. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for standing with me, for believing in me, and for reminding me that no matter how many times life tries to silence you, that your story still matters. Thank you all, and I love you.
This memoir is a deeply personal and inspiring story of survival, healing, and self-discovery. A story that reclaims a life once defined by loss and transforms it into one of strength and purpose.